A wave of protests hit 40 Cuban cities, the biggest in decades. People are calling for liberty, freedom, and down with the dictatorship.
A large crowd of demonstrators has gathered on Joe Biden's front lawn, demanding freedom for the Cuban people.
President Biden needs to come out and be very forceful that we stand with the people of Cuba who are fighting for their freedom.
There is a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of confusion of what's happening in Cuba and how that relates to what's happening even in the streets of America.
People are feeling like they're seeing the signs that the government, the media, big tech here in the United States are beginning to collude against them. And that feels like early warning signs of socialism and fascism.
Many in the Democrat Party don't want to go too hard on Cuba because they actually like a lot of the things that the regime does as far as their socialist policies.
You ask yourself why first and second generation Americans were so for the Republicans and Trump last time, like never before. It's because they left totalitarianism, fascism, socialism. They know the early warning signs.
What is amazing is that the people on the left in the United States, they're not supporting the demonstrators. They're supporting the Cuban government, the Cuban regime, and lauding socialism, which is the very reason the people there are suffering.
We haven't seen this kind of protest or in the streets movement in 60 years. It's been a long time. So it's new to see.
Now the people see their chance to rise up and try to stop it and change it and to have freedom.
These are the moments where you can't let them slide. If there are moments where we can, seize the day and say, we need to stand up.
The Hyde Amendment has been a part of federal law since 1976 when it was first passed as part of the annual appropriations process. Very simply put, the Hyde Amendment is a prohibition on U.S. taxpayer dollars used to fund abortions directly in the United States.
The House is moving to try to strip away the Hyde Amendment, which again protects taxpayer-funded elective abortions, not life of the mother, not any sort of medical reason, but for non-medical elective reasons.
We've gotten to a place where we've gotten so radical in Washington, D.C. on the abortion issue that even a consensus issue like this one with the American people, not good enough for the pro-choice, pro-abortion crowd in Washington, D.C. They are moving to repeal that protection.
It doesn't matter what the technology says. It doesn't matter what the science says. This has nothing to do with that anymore. This just has to be protect abortions at all costs, not as much as just protect, but you, the person who may be against it, personally, privately, maybe not something you're talking about on social media, you're the one who's still gonna have to pay for it.
Imagine a world where every child was given the opportunity to dream, accomplish, and succeed. The world would be a much better place, our future brighter than ever.
The majority of Americans agree that taxpayer dollars should never be used to fund abortion.
They have moved it way beyond this is a sensitive topic, and there's people on both sides. Now it is a war.
This is the real bread and butter work that the ACLJ does and has been doing for the last 30 years.
Yeah, and Logan, there are a lot of voices in Washington, D.C. I really think the one that sets us apart is the fact that when we go into a congressional office, we bring both the legal analysis and the voice of the American people.
We can only do that with the support of all of you who are watching and listening right now. Christian school choice is heading to the Supreme Court, and we are there as well in support of the parents and the students. They are taking a case that came in locally in Maine.
Many school districts actually don't have a public high school. So what the state of Maine does is it gives vouchers or credits to the parents so they can send their children to the school of their choice. It doesn't have to be in that district even. It can be an out-of-state school.
It's parents, not the government, that should have control for directing the education of their children. Clearly, they have the most vested interest. They know their children the best.
The Supreme Court took a case because there were laws that were seemingly need to be probably hopefully invalidated that say, hey, school choice and voucher systems are great, but cannot be used for religious schools in general. We say Christian schools is probably the majority.
If a student wants to take advantage of a school choice program and the parent of that student says the best option for my student is this particular school that has a faith-based component, Logan, that should absolutely be permitted. And under the framework of the Constitution, I think you could argue it should be required.
We've already filed in this specific case twice, and we will again.
When parents direct the education of their children, it's no surprise that often they will choose a religious school.
They want to use this money the state's providing to go to the school of their choice. And that's fine unless it's a religious school. And that's just where the discrimination against religious teaching and religious schools, it can't stand.
This is a moment in time. This is an opportunity for school choice to win. We get these every once in a while on policy issues, but the pandemic clearly showed parents and students that school choice is a net good for them. Logan, this next year, this is why we're engaged in it. This is the opportunity to win it.
The state of Mississippi just asked the Supreme Court to overturn Roe versus Wade.
The Attorney General's office in Mississippi, as they call for the end of Roe versus Wade and return to the state rights option of life and abortion.
The court agreed to weigh in on a Mississippi law that would ban the procedure after the 15-week mark, before viability, when a fetus can survive outside the womb.
There is no right to abortion in the Constitution. It was a judicially fabricated right that was created in the opinion of Roe v. Wade.
Lower court struck the law down, saying it ran counter to a string of the Supreme Court's abortion rights rulings.
Roe talks about 24 weeks of viability, Logan. It is regular course for babies to be born before that and lead a healthy, thriving life. I know this firsthand, so it's just another example of how that ruling in Roe is very outdated.
If the court rules this Mississippi law can be upheld, that would upend Roe, it would upend Casey, it would upend our abortion law cases as we know them.
There's no question that the court should look at this case and the Dobbs case, look at the clear facts of it, and overturn Roe v. Wade and overturn the Casey decision, and to say states have the right to be able to make a decision to be able to protect their own citizens.
If the Supreme Court's prior holdings say you can't ban abortion before viability, and here comes a state that wants to ban abortion before viability, how can those two things exist?
The president is committed to codifying Roe, regardless of the outcome of this case.
So regardless of the outcome, whether the case is overturned and they decide, hey, the law is no longer what it was, the White House is saying, hey, we're going to codify this and we're going to come together. We're going to make it federal law. Sorry, states. Sorry, Supreme Court of the United States. Doesn't matter how you rule. The Biden administration is who will win overall.